Hi guys. Okay, so today what we're going to do is we're going to look at how to find absolute location. On the last video, we spoke about the difference between absolute and relative location, and we said that absolute location is an exact place on Earth. So if you were using absolute location in the city, then you would use your address for somebody to be able to find your house, right? Like 123 Mayberry. But if you were using relative location, then you would use another place relative to the location of your house. So like if you live behind Wendy's or whatever. But now we're going to look at it on a global scale, okay? Just like in every city, every place on Earth has an address. Now, this is known as a global address. It's absolute location, coordinates that we use with latitude and longitude, okay? So these are the two types of lines that we're going to be looking at today. So when finding absolute location, the very first thing that you need to know are latitude lines, okay? So latitude lines are also known as parallels, okay? Parallel lines or latitude lines are drawn from east to west. So they move horizontally across the map, okay? So they move side to side horizontally, but they measure north to south. So I know that's a little confusing. So let's take a look at the lines. So you see these lines are running horizontally. They're running east to west, but they're showing us how far up or how far down something is, okay? The measurement of latitude lines goes from 0 degrees all the way up to 90 degrees. So if you're moving north, you're going to have all of these degrees of latitude lines labeled north. So here you have 0 degrees, 20 degrees north, 40 degrees north, 60 degrees north, 80 degrees north, and then at the very top you have 90 degrees north. Now, if you move south, of course, it's almost the same thing, except you use south. So 20 degrees south, 40 degrees south, 60 degrees south, 80 degrees south, 90 degrees south. Okay, so latitude lines are also known as parallels. You draw them east to west or west to east, but they measure how far north or how far south something is. Okay, so that's your first step in finding absolute location is determining which latitude line that area falls on. Okay. Now, the second part of finding, the major line of latitude is the equator. The equator is there in the center. The equator measures at 0 degrees, and it splits the Earth into the northern and southern hemispheres. Okay, so this is the north, and this is the south. So what is a hemisphere? Let's go ahead and define that. A hemisphere is half of a globe, or in our case, we're talking about Earth, okay? So it's half. If you broke this word into two parts, hemi means half, and sphere would indicate globe, or in this case, of course, like we're saying Earth, okay? So hemisphere is half of the Earth. So here's an example. Here's the equator. It's splitting it into north and southern, hemispheres. Okay, so like I said, let's move into the second part of finding absolute location. So just like in math class, when you're finding coordinates, first you need to look for the x-axis, right? And then the second part of your coordinates is using the y-axis. So that's what we're looking at now, the lines that go up and down this way, otherwise known as longitude lines. Longitude lines can also be known as meridians. Okay, so meridians or longitude lines go up and down on the globe, and they are drawn from north to south, but they measure how far east or how far west something is. Okay, so I know that's a little bit confusing, but that's okay. If you're confused on that and how we use the coordinates, we're going to clarify that in class. Okay, so the major line of longitude is going to be your prime meridian. It splits the Earth into eastern and western hemispheres. There it is. There's your prime meridian. Fun fact, the prime meridian runs through a city in England, Greenwich, England. Expect that to be some kind of a bonus point. They actually celebrate it there. So one more thing about lines of longitude. They run from 0 degrees to 180 degrees, okay? And they measure east and west. So you'll have like 20 degrees east or 150 degrees west, okay? So you're going to have the measurement be from 0 to 180. It measures the eastern and western hemispheres. That's all I have for you. and see you tomorrow.